Okay, welcome back. So coming to the part 3 of periodontal medicine. So in this class, we are going to talk about the periodontal disease, the link between periodontal disease and diabetes mellitus, and periodontal disease and pregnancy outcomes, and periodontal disease and respiratory diseases. Okay, so this will be the last part. So coming to the periodontal medicine, the third part. So we are going to start with the periodontal disease and diabetes mellitus. So this diabetes mellitus is an extremely important disease from the periodontal standpoint, right? It is a complex metabolic disorder characterized by chronic hyperglycemia. So diminished insulin production, impaired insulin action, or a combination of both result in the main inability of glucose to be transported from bloodstream into the tissues, which in turn results in high blood glucose level and the main excretion of sugar in the urine. Okay, so these endocrine diseases such as diabetes and mainly hormonal fluctuations, which are associated with puberty and pregnancy, are well known examples of systemic conditions that are mainly that are going to get affected, mainly or adversely affect the condition of the periodontium. Okay, so these endocrine disturbances and hormone fluctuations, they are going to affect the periodontal tissues directly, modify the tissue response to local factors, and produce some structural changes in the gingiva. Means these anatomic changes like gingival enlargement, gingival inflammation, all these things. Because of inflammation is going to get enlarged, and because of this enlargement, it is going to favor the plaque accumulation and disease progression. So coming to the complications of diabetes mellitus. Uncontrolled diabetes, I'm not talking about the normal diabetes. Okay, uncontrolled diabetes, or it's also called as chronic hyperglycemia, is associated with several long-term complications, including the microvascular diseases and macrovascular diseases. Microvascular diseases means it is called retinopathy and nephropathy and neuropathy. Macrovascular diseases like cardiovascular and cerebrovascular conditions, and an increased susceptibility to infection and poor its wound healing. Okay, apart from these complications, in 1993, okay, it is said that the periodontal disease or periodontitis is considered as a sixth complication of diabetes mellitus. This is very important, and this is what we should know, and we should be able to motivate the patients in this line. Okay, here there are two major types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2, with several less common secondary types. Okay, so type 1 diabetes, which was previously known as insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, is caused by a cell mediated autoimmune destruction of the insulin producing beta cells of the islets of Langerhans, mainly in pancreas, which result in like insulin deficiency. So type 1 diabetes is going to mainly account only for 5 to 10% of oral cases of diabetes, and most often occurs in children and in young adults. It is not for normal. This is one of the least common form of diabetes. So this type of diabetes result from lack of insulin production and is very unstable and difficult to control. So mainly it has marked tendency towards ketosis and coma. These are important things you should know. So the ketosis and coma is more common in type 1 diabetes. It is not preceded by obesity, or it is not because of increase in diet and all these things, and it requires the injection of insulin to be controlled. Normally you cannot use the oral like hypoglycemic drugs and all these things. You should use the direct insulin. The patients with type 1 diabetes, okay, patients with type 1 diabetes mellitus, they are present with the symptoms that are traditionally associated with diabetes, including polyphagia, polydipsia, and polyuria, and predisposition of the mainly to infections. It is more chance of infection in those patients. So coming to type 2 diabetes mellitus, which are formerly or which are previously known as the non-insulin diabetes mellitus. It is caused by the peripheral resistance to insulin action, okay, impaired insulin secretion and increased glucose production in the liver. The insulin producing beta cells in the pancreas are not destroyed by the cell mediated autoimmune reaction. It typically begins as insulin resistance, so which is going to lead to the reduced pancreas production of insulin as the demand increases. Okay. Type 2 diabetes mellitus is the most common form of diabetes, and it accounts around 90 to 95% of all diagnosed cases in adults. It is most commonly seen in adults. Individuals are not aware that they have this type of disease until severe symptoms or complications occur. So most of the people, they doesn't know. If they have some free testing, lab testing, they might come in that. Otherwise, many people doesn't know that they have diabetes. Type 2 diabetes generally mainly occurs in like obese individuals, and it can often be controlled by diet or the oral hypoglycemic agents. Ketosis and coma are less common here. So where ketosis and coma are more common in type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes can present with the same symptoms as type 1 diabetes, but typically in a very less severe form, very less form. Means if it is a chronic long lasting case of diabetes where the patient is not under control, then we can see all these symptoms which are in close related to the type 1 diabetes. Okay, and the next category, okay, the diabetes secondary to some other diseases or conditions, the next category, okay, they are the gestational diabetes or some endocrine diseases, example acromegaly, Cushing syndrome, or tumors, or because of pancreatectomy and all these things. An additional category of diabetes in hyperglycemia secondary to some other disease and conditions. A prime example of this type is hyperglycemia, mainly in the gestational diabetes, which is associated with pregnancy. This condition normally disappears after delivery. This is normally during the pregnancy it will be. So that is why most of the things you will be seeing, they will be having the glucose tolerance test during pregnancy. The women with gestational diabetes are at risk of developing type 2 diabetes. And like other secondary type of diabetes, as I said before, are those associated with diseases that involves pancreas and the destruction of the insulin producing cells. Endocrine diseases, example is like acromegaly, the Cushing syndrome, and tumors and pancreatectomy, and the drugs or chemicals that causes altered insulin levels and which are included in this group. Experimentally induced types of diabetes, they generally mainly belong to this category. So once it was given one MCQ that the main experimental type of diabetes means experimentally they induce diabetes in rats or humans or something, and maybe this type of thing comes under the third category. It is not type 1 or type 2. So coming to the oral manifestations, it is chelosis, mucosal drying, mucosal cracking, the burning mouth, burning tongue, decreased salivary flow, alteration in the flora of the oral cavity with greater predominance of Candida albicans, hemolytic streptococci and staphylococci, and increased rate of dental caries. These are the most common oral manifestations you will see. And the next is the periodontal manifestations. All these manifestations are generally associated with uncontrolled diabetes mellitus. It is not with normal patients who are having good control. Uncontrolled long-standing diabetes. Altered response to periodontal tissues to local factors, gingival inflammation, gingival enlargement, sessile or pedunculated gingival polyps, and polypoid gingival proliferations, and abscess formation, and periodontitis, gingivitis, and deep pockets with rapid bone loss. You will see all these things in case of uncontrolled diabetes. And at last you will see the loosened teeth. So this is the periodontal disease. Normally it is in patients with diabetes follows no consistent or distinct pattern. It's not that every patient will have all these things. Some patients will have only the gingival features, and some patients will have the mild gingivitis but severe deep pockets, and there are so many things. It mainly depends on the patient thing. Next thing, the bacterial pathogens. It is you will see most of the time, you will see the patients with diabetes, when you take the block samples, you will see subgingival area, you will see the Capnocytophaga species and this anaerobic vibrios, and you see actinomyces species. So why these organisms are more present is the glucose content of the GCF and blood is higher in individuals with diabetes than in those without diabetes, okay, with similar plaque and gingival index score. So the quantity will be the same, but because of the increased glucose levels in GCF and blood of the patients with diabetes, they could change this environment of the microflora, thereby inducing the qualitative changes in the bacteria that may contribute to severity of the periodontal disease observed in those patients with poorly controlled diabetes. So patients with type 1 diabetes and periodontitis have been reported to have subgingival flora that is composed mainly of Capnocytophaga and these 3 species. Okay, so mainly this is because of increased glucose in the blood and GCF. So next is the PMN function. This is called the polymorphonuclear function. There will be impaired function and the collagen metabolism. The increased susceptibility of patients with diabetes to infection has been hypothesized as being caused by PMN dysfunction or deficiency, which results in impaired chemotaxis and defective phagocytosis or impaired adherence. So there is no alteration in IgA. This should be very clear. There is no alteration in like immunoglobulin A or immunoglobulin M has been found in patients with diabetes. There is no alteration at all. So the chronic hyperglycemia impairs collagen structure and functions. That is why you will see the softness of gingiva or soft edematous gingiva. It is because impairs the collagen structure and function, which may directly impact the integrity of the periodontium. The chronic hyperglycemia is going to affect the synthesis, maturation and the maintenance of collagen and extracellular matrix. Decreased collagen synthesis, osteoporosis and a reduction in the main annular bone height have been demonstrated in patients with diabetic mellitus or diabetic animals, not in the humans, mainly in these animals. Okay. So in the hyperglycemic state, what happens is numerous proteins and matrix molecules undergo a non-enzymatic glycosylation, thereby resulting in accumulated AGEs. It's called glycation end products. This is very, very important. Collagen is cross-linked by this AGE formation, which makes the collagen less soluble and less likely to be normally repaired and replaced. Okay, so it is less soluble and it is less likely to be normally replaced, and as a result of this, the collagen in the tissue of the patient with poorly controlled diabetes is older and more susceptible to pathogenic breakdown, that is less resistant to destruction of periodontal infection. AGEs and the receptors of AGEs plays a central role in the classic complication of diabetes, and they may play a significant role in the progression of periodontal disease as well. So here this slide shows you the chronic hyperglycemia, increase in AGEs. So what is this AGE means? It is called as accumulated glycation end products. Okay, and they causes the intracellular signaling pathway, and they are caused for the main upregulation of the pro-inflammatory cytokines and production of the oxygen-free radicals. So here this is the potential effect of periodontal infection and the periodontal therapy on glycemia. Because of the presence of periodontal infection, there is gram-negative periodontal bacteria. They causes increase insulin resistance. On the left side you can see this is because of the disease, and this is because of treatment. Once you treat that thing, there is decreased inflammation, improves insulin sensitivity and improve glycemic control. So this is what the relation between periodontitis or periodontal disease and diabetes mellitus. Okay, so next we'll move on to the periodontal disease and pregnancy. So coming to the periodontal disease and pregnancy outcomes, we have two important things. One is preterm birth. You should know these terms first. Preterm birth and spontaneous preterm birth. Preterm birth means one of the most complicated and challenging issue in the perinatal medicine. Okay. Spontaneous preterm birth means social. Okay, it is because of maternal race or ethnicity or poverty and individual risk factors like underweight, tobacco use or maternal infections. It causes the spontaneous preterm birth. Next is the periodontal disease occurs in 40% of pregnant women. So that is why we say normally in many other countries, pre-pregnant, when they go for a pre-pregnant counseling, here we don't go for pre-pregnant counseling, they should go for a dental checkup. Okay, so before getting pregnancy, it's here many people normally go to a normal gynecologist only once they are pregnant or to confirm that whether they are pregnant or very few go for a pre-pregnant counseling. So if you go to a pre-pregnant counseling, most of the gynecologists, they suggest to go for it's not really in abroad countries, they go for a routine dental checkup. So here, what is preterm birth? You should know these terms. These are very important for MCQs. Preterm birth means the birth less than 37 weeks of gestational age. Okay. Late preterm birth means the birth at 34 to 36 weeks of gestational age. This is a preterm birth, but late preterm. Very preterm means the birth less than 32 weeks of gestational age. Extremely preterm means the birth less than 28 weeks of gestational. This is very risky and very complicated. Low birth weight. It is less than 2500 grams or 2.5 kilos. Very low birth weight means 1500 grams or 1.5 kilo. So preterm low birth weight means the babies will be born before 37 weeks of gestational age with less than 2.5 kilos or 2500 grams. You should know this. These are very important for MCQs. And coming to the periodontal disease and preterm low birth weight, what is going to happen? The proposed biologic model is because of this microbial challenge, you can see because of the bacteria and the bacterial products, they release these endotoxins and they cause, there are two ways. One is the direct these endotoxins, they go mainly from the oral thing and like they enter the area to the main fetal placental unit through systemic circulation, or they causes increase in the inflammatory mediators and they cause the preterm labor. So there are two pathways. This is the mechanism, this is the main biologic model which is proposed. So here, this chart also shows you the biological plausibility, the translocation of periodontal pathogens and the main effect of these endotoxins. They cause inflammation. They direct or indirect way, they causes the premature rupture of membrane. Whatever it is, they cause the premature rupture of membrane and causes preterm birth. So next is the bacterial vaginosis. So this is one of the most common vaginal disorders in women of reproductive ages. So it is caused by changes in the vaginal microflora in which normally the predominant facultative lactobacilli are replaced with the Gardnerella vigilans and anaerobic organisms including species of genera Prevotella, Bacteroides and Peptostreptococcus, Porphyromonas and Mobiluncus and others. So this bacterial vaginosis is known risk factor for preterm labor or premature rupture of the membrane. It is nothing but the main infection of the main vaginal area and the low birth weight case. So coming to the periodontal disease and respiratory disease. So here the respiratory disease, they contribute considerably to morbidity and mortality. So it's very important to know what is the relation between periodontal disease, because the respiratory disease are now mainly the COVID. It is nothing but the respiratory disease which causes most of the mortality. So we should know the relation between periodontal disease and respiratory disease. Okay. So first you should know the terms. What is bacterial pneumonia? It is the community acquired or the hospital acquired nosocomial infection. The next is COPD. What is COPD? It is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Pneumonia. It is characterized by inflammation of lungs resulting from microorganisms. Next is VAP. It is a pneumonia developing in 48 hours or more after initiation of mechanical ventilation. HAP is hospitalized. VAP means it is because of ventilator acquired pneumonia, and the HAP is hospital acquired pneumonia, which occurs after 48 hours or more after the main admission to the hospitals. Okay, so here you can see the causal relationship between the periodontitis and COPD. You can see here the periodontal tissues, these pathogens are mainly the bacteria from the periodontal tissues. They release bacterial proteins, activation of the complement, which results in recruitment and activation of the neutrophils, the frustrated phagocytes, thereby causing the release of neutrophil proteins and thereby causing the main abnormal corrective tissue destruction, which causes this emphysema or periodontitis. So there is a relation between both the things. So now we know about the periodontitis and systemic diseases, that there is a relation between heart problems, stroke, or there are so many relations with many other things. But there are so many limitations. One is the lack of well-defined criteria, mainly that reflect. So if some patient asks you, sir, if I have a gum problem, do I get a heart attack or do I get an angina? Can you say yes? We cannot say yes. We cannot say no also. So because there is no clear-cut demarcation or there is no clear-cut criteria saying that this periodontal disease will cause this particular disease. There are chances and it is considered as a risk factor. Okay. The second is inconsistency, mainly the definition of periodontitis in this epidemiological research. Paucity and the heterogeneity of this available clinical research in some area. The fourth is the role of confounders and the main effect of modifiers in association between between the diseases. These are the things. Okay, so with this class, I am going to wind up with this part. We are going to stop. I am going to close this chapter now. It is the periodontal medicine. So just go through that. It is very important chapter. Among that, you will have the focal infection theory or periodontitis in relation with diabetes or periodontitis in preterm low birth weight and periodontitis and heart disease. These are the common questions they will be asking you from this chapter. Okay. Thank you. Stay home, stay safe.